Am I being defined by my ability to plan a company picnic?
I'm super excited today to be joined by Tim Sackett, a friend of mine that we connected through some HR technology presentations and various thought leadership and following him on his blog and all the fancy cool stuff that he does. So Tim, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So Tim, I know there may not be a lot of people that are watching this now that don't know who you are, but maybe for those that don't, do you want to share a quick highlight of your
Sure.
career and your connection with the human resource field?
Yeah. So literally I'm the CEO currently of a technical staffing firm out of Michigan, but we kind of do stuff all over the country. Been doing that the last 10 years or so. Before that, corporate HR and corporate talent acquisition kind of positions, have my master's in HR. And about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago, found a dude online that you and I both know, Chris Dunn, writing over at Fistful of Talent and HR Capitalist. And I was in a corporate job that one of those jobs where I immediately kind of understood that I made a bad kind of decision when I took the job, but you're in it, so you got to make the best of it. Found Chris online, sent him a message about some blog he had written that was exactly what I was thinking, but couldn't say in a very political HR environment. And he said, "Hey, you should start writing for me," which I never even consider myself a writer or anything like that. But, he's like, "Come on, let's, start writing at Fistful of Talent." So I did that. And then he was like, "Hey, you're actually pretty good at this and got a lot to say. You should do your own blog." So we started that. And then the crazy thing happens where, you start writing online and then people start thinking like you actually know what you're talking about, or they want to listen to you or whatever. The audience starts to grow. And then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you're like, oh, like, you're being invited to speak at conferences and do stuff. And I wrote a book that, SHRM published, and, it's just turned into a completely parallel world of work. My wife says you have a second full-time job, and it truly has become a second full-time job. Something I love. Like, I never knew I'd love to write, but turns out, that it was great therapy for me in my HR education.
How cool. Yeah, no, Don's a great guy. Appreciate the chance to meet up with him a few times. And that's inspirational, right? Just gave you that little crack, right? Of, hey, take a shot at this. Why don't you write? And then turns out you were good at it. And you, if I remember correctly, you write every day. Is that you try to write every day or close to it?
Yeah. In fact, that was Chris's challenge. So about 2 years into Fistful of Talent, writing for him, I was writing like the Friday kind of make fun of HR column every Friday, make fun of what we do. And I was part of that, so I could kind of make fun of myself. But he's like, "Hey, you should try it." Like, and he was writing every day. And I go, "I just don't know if I could, man. That seems like a lot, And he's like, "Just try it for a year. We'll call it the Tim Sackett Project." And that was over 9 years ago. I've been writing every day. So I don't actually write every day. I post every day. Many times I'll write on a Sunday, or, someday I'll sit down and kick out 2 or 3 posts, and then you schedule them out. So,
Sure.
So yeah, there's Monday through Friday, there's something that goes up every day. And that if I'm on vacation, I might rerun like some best of and stuff like that. Here's the crazy part, John, is like, I didn't realize this until I was probably 5 or 6 years into writing. I could rerun a post I wrote 3 years ago, and it will actually get more traffic the second time. It'll get more the third time, the fourth time, because the audience continues to grow and expand, and then just the social presence. And a lot of that stuff that you wrote, like if you think about like right now, there's stuff I wrote during the Great Recession that is completely applicable right now and really hasn't changed. Like how to find a job with high unemployment, or
Right.
things of that sort, or how to recruit, and the challenges of recruiting. I mean, we think it's easier because there's more candidates. It's not. It's actually more difficult because there's more candidates. So stuff like that gets more traffic now.
In doing what you do. So how would you describe the purpose of human resources?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think, people always ask me, do I like HR or TA better? Because I've done both roles and at a high level and even at a practitioner level. And I'm always like, I love both. Like, I loved all the aspects of HR, of, training, development, of employee relations, of, all of that kind of stuff, the strategy and behind it. But when I put all of that together and I think about HR as a big umbrella and say, okay, what's our main role? I still think it comes down to HR's really main purpose is to increase the talent of the organization. Now, easily you could connect dots and go, oh, well, that's TA. Because they're bringing talent in. But no, think about developing the talent you have. Think about retaining the talent you have. Think about all the aspects. For me, it's all about how do we increase the talent? Because if we just maintain, then our competition is going to pass us. So we have to figure out as HR leaders, how do we increase the talent of the organization constantly? And that's at every role.
If I interpret what you're saying, it's not just like getting more people. Obviously, it's just getting more out of them, more connection to the purpose of the company, so that they feel that purpose-driven work ethic, and at the same time that they're delivering more to the company. So as a relation to like success with that, like how would you describe like success from an HR perspective, or what you do every day?
To me, success then is really around the hard measures that will actually impact the bottom line of the business, that go back to the P&L, that go back to our financials and go, wait a minute, we did this, we decreased this, or we increased this, and thus I can go back and make a dotted line to where that had an impact on the financials.
I think it's imperative everybody inside the company, not just HR, everybody understands how the financial performance of the company works. Like, how do we make money and how do we lose money? Because when we make money, there'll be more of it to spread around, whether it's to you or others. And when we lose money, wait a second, then we have to make changes that could potentially impact, a line worker's job or a CFO's job or everything in between. And
yeah, so I think so often as leaders, we're scared to really share gross profit, net income, all that stuff with employees, because we think they won't be able to process it and understand it. They'll just think, oh, well, if the company's gross profit was $1 billion, I should get a raise. And then, you go, well, we're running negative net income, and so like, I think we can paint that picture. And again, if you're a leader and you go, hey, we have a gross profit of $1 billion and we have a net income of 750 million, well, then you better have a good explanation of why that person can't get a raise,
Right. What makes a standout HR pro to you?
I think for me, it's always about people that have, an interest in one is understanding what the business actually does, how they make money or how they survive. You don't have to know how to do it. You have to understand what it is in whatever organization you're supporting. If you're an HRBP and you're supporting operations, are you spending time in the operations to understand the real world aspects? And again, you don't have to be able to do it. If you're supporting IT, I don't need you to know how to code. I need you to know the life of a coder that lives in your organization, to really be able to understand how do you help them impact that person to perform better, ultimately, to help the organization perform better. And so for me, it's having that, it's an innate desire to want to be more involved at a higher level in the organization. It's not just, oh, I'm in HR and I have these 3 processes that I'm responsible for, and I just have to ensure that they're done. And then I'm going to clock out at the end of the day and I'm going to go home and I'm not going to think about it. It's somebody that has a broader, I think, it's not knowledge, it's just a desire to be a part of the business in a broader way.
Is there anything that you can encourage the HR folks to do that? I know you said kind of driving those kind of P&L based business results, but anything specifically that you might suggest?
Yeah, I think some of it, and I got this from my time on the corporate side of HR, is to be humble. So often I find that HR people, we get a bad rap sometimes in the organization, and partly because I think they come across as a little bit of as formal power hungry. I'm in HR, and thus because I'm in HR, there's a legal aspect to this, and I'm going to use my title and I'm going to use my function as a hammer, as a weapon against somebody in the organization that's not doing exactly what I think you should be doing, versus going, hey, as a real business partner, my role is to advise you of risk and then help you through the decision you're going to make. So again, stepping into the void that, of the organization, there's so many times, like, John, you and I both know, like, the joke in HR is, well, we don't plan the company picnic, and I'm like, why wouldn't you plan the company picnic? We're the best people to do that, right? And we should want to do that. We should have fun with that. And we should, am I being defined by my ability to plan a company picnic? Well, yeah, if I'm crappy at it, I'm going to be defined.
Yeah, right.
Be good at it. Be great at it. Run the best company picnic you ever had. Instead, we try to throw it off on somebody because we think that's not strategic. And you're just like, oh, I just can't stand that kind of mentality.
Yeah, just a few more questions, Tim. Now, you
Sure.
being kind of growing up in the TA world and focusing, I know your book to that community. I'm curious if, and this may be unfair, or maybe you do have a silver bullet question, but is there one particular question that you like to ask, or kind of series of questions that helps you increase that talent within your company or your clients' companies?
Well, there's definitely one silver bullet question I ask for new people coming in. And for me, it's, I want to understand, because here's what we get, right? Is it doesn't matter the title, right? So let's say it's for an HRBP. I'm interviewing an HRBP role. I have an HRBP with experience coming in to interview, and I'll sit there and say, tell me about HR. Tell me about what, intrigues you about HR, what, energizes you about HR. And they're like, oh my God, Tim, HR is my life. I'm like, oh, wow, great. So talk to me about that. What do you do outside of the actual job to show me HR is your life? And then they go, well, Tim, I come to work every day. Uh-huh. And, oh, well, I used to be a member of SHRM. Not anymore, but I used to be. So basically HR is your life because you come to an HR job every day. Yeah. No, I want to know if you're truly passionate about that job, whether that's HR, accounting, IT, whatever. There's things you do outside your life. You and I are great examples. Like we get involved with Disrupt HR. We get involved with, local HR communities, and bringing things together. You're gonna write a book. I wrote a book. That's being involved and having passion around the function that you've decided to go after in your life. Now, is everybody going to have that? No, but the best talent does, man. Like it comes out like a giant, beam of light. Yeah.
No, it's funny you say that. I'm actually reading right now Unstoppable by Dave Anderson. I don't know if you've seen that book, but he talks about the 4 types of performers: game changers, playmakers, undertakers, and caretakers. And huge section of the book about passion, enthusiasm, attitude. And he's just trying to find game changers. That's all I want in my team are game changers.
And people will give you excuses, right? Like they're like, oh, well, I'm a single mom that's, doing this and I don't have time. But if I had time, I would do those things. I literally just was on a podcast with a single mom with 3 kids who is not only running the podcast, she's still doing a full-time HR job. She's in the midst of writing a book. Like, don't give me that crap, right? It depends on, you're probably not doing it because it's not your passion, and that's fine. I get that, but don't tell me it's your life,
Yeah. My dad would always say, if you really want to do something, you'd find time for it. Don't tell me you don't have time for it. Right? Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
Last question, bud. How would you describe someone that does HR like a boss?
They know how to build a real good, lasting relationship where they can leverage that when needed. They don't need it all the time. They're not asking to move it all the time, but it's there. They're giving for those individuals where they have that relationship. And ultimately, they're focused on the outcomes of the business versus the outcomes of HR. And I think ultimately it's so hard, I think, to because often then we have to give up some things in HR that we're so kind of concerned about. And when I was at Applebee's, our leadership team called it you have to give up your A card, right? So if you think of the things that you have to do in your life, you have decisions that will be made for you. That's a C card. You have decisions that you will make jointly with other people or one other person. That's a B card. And then there's decisions you get to make all by yourself. That's the A card. And there's so few of those decisions we get to make by ourselves. And so it's super hard for us to give those up. And in HR and in an organization, it's super hard for us to give those up. So being able to give that A card away will increase your influence. And I think if I think of like HR, like a boss, those individuals who are willing to give up that A card, knowing that it's going to come back to them in spades, that's probably all I can ask for.
Yeah, seems counterintuitive in some respects, right? In
For
that.
sure.
But,
Yeah.
hey, Tim, you're a good man. I appreciate you taking the time. I know kind of the purpose of HR in your mind is to increase that talent and continue to get great people that come into the organization that you as the HR pro are leading, to be humble in that and just be real careful about the power and responsibility that we in HR have, and make sure to use that in a very careful and thought-provoking way that drives business results. So
Definitely.
really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me, John.
Stay safe. You got it. Thank you so much for watching the HR Like a Boss video chat series. More information about the book, how to be a guest, and info on our social media channels can be found in the description below.